Hey, welcome to the Restoration Soul Care Podcast, where we have honest conversations about faith, neuroscience, and hope. I'm Michael Camber, a relationship and recovery coach.
And I'm Nick Buddha, a mental health and relationship coach. If you feel stuck in shame, addiction, or pain, you don't have to face it alone. Join us for some real stories, real tools, and a real path forward. Let's dive in.
Hey, before we get into it, if you know that you're already done with this porn thing and you want to get started now, there's a link in the show notes that will take you to book a one-on-one discovery call. It's free. It's pretty quick. It's not like a pressure thing, not a high pressure, no sales. I hate when I get duped into like high pressure sales things by accident because I'm curious. That's not what this is. We literally just want to talk to you, see if we can help you. So if that's you and you want to get started now, go click that link. Otherwise, Nick, why do resolutions fail?
Most New Year's resolutions are focused on behavior modification.
Yeah.
Right? So we're completely ignoring drivers to our behavior, that we are more than just physical creatures. We're also cognitive and emotional and spiritual creatures. And those underlying things are huge aspects to why we do what we do. If your approach to this new year is basically, I'm going to try harder, I'm going to do it right this time, then keep listening because we want to talk to you. So back to the first group.
Yeah.
Who is maybe starting a Planet Fitness membership this month.
Yep.
Or just, again, we're being playful here, but they have this kind of drive and resolve from our culture that basically, hey, now's the time of year to set goals. Now's the time of year for resolutions. And if there's anything that I want to set a goal and resolution for, it's to beat this thing.
Yeah.
This addiction, this struggle, this compulsion. And what we want to tell you is we love that heart. We love that drive. And we want to tap into it. And at the same time, we want to set our sights on the right thing.
Yeah. There's nothing magical about starting this at the beginning of a year, but I think it is kind of like the season of starting something new. It's like the year starting over. We've had all these ideas maybe rolling around in our head toward the end of last year that we're like, I really want to tackle this in the new year. I really want to tackle this in the new year. Well, the new year's here. So let's tackle it. It's, again, there's nothing magical about starting it now, but like there is this season of like, I feel some energy in me and I want to like throw something at this and try to knock it out. So here's kind of the first thing I want you to, the people listening and watching, that I want you to sort of consider. You can't manage what you don't measure. And this is why we talk about data gathering in the awareness phase of trying to deal with pornography. If you're unwilling to look at your own story and you're unwilling to look at your own patterns and sort of unearth what's already there with some degree of clarity, you're not ever really going to make any progress because you don't even know what you're trying to change if you don't know what's already there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when we talk about growing in awareness, that's what we're after. It's what data can we gather about the thing that's already happening so that we can choose something different.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. What we want to say over and over again is porn isn't the ultimate problem. So what we're trying to encourage with awareness and with reflection is there is something beneath the surface that is driving your pornography use. The line we usually use a lot is you use porn for a reason. It serves a purpose in your life. So the thing that we want to bring healing to, the thing that we want to actually work towards in recovery is, what is that driver? What is the underlying factor? And so unless we grow in awareness, unless we take time to reflect and see the patterns, we're never going to get to that starting point. We're always going to be trying to, let's use a biblical analogy of, staple on apples to a sick and dying tree. So that's why we keep using the term pattern. But really, Michael, what are we getting at in terms of like when we say pattern or when we say a sequence of events?
Yeah, it's a series of behaviors or actions that you take repeatedly and consistently that develop over time into a more continued and consistently repeated set of behaviors.
Yeah.
So it's like, I keep doing this, therefore, in the future, I will continue doing this probably. And part of that, not to get back into the whole dopamine thing, but you have a reward part of your brain, a reward system that reinforces behaviors that sort the thing out that we're trying to do. So if I have a pattern of loneliness that I'm unaware of, and I start trying to tackle that, again, this is all probably happening subconsciously, by acting out and using porn or masturbation, my brain goes, oh, this works at least on some level. Here's some dopamine. And then that behavior gets reinforced. So again, it doesn't mean that you can't change, but you do have to understand what you're up against. There's some stuff going on under the surface subconsciously that is already working. And again, like we talked about, we have to get into the place where we can slow down enough to pay attention and recognize those patterns. Because if we can recognize a pattern, patterns can be changed.
That's right.
We change the pattern, we change the behavior. We literally do the hard work of rewiring our brain through the power of the Holy Spirit, right? Who's present in us. He does that work. And then we can walk away from something like porn. And again, it's not going to be automatic like we probably want it to be, right? That's a typical thing. Like, well, I go to porn automatically. Can I just walk away from it automatically?
Yeah.
Probably not.
No.
But you can, what we like to say is you do have a choice. And we oftentimes lose sight of that, but you do have a choice. So increasing our awareness is about regaining our choice.
Yeah, and what we want to say to you guys too is actually the underlying thing isn't just this cancer that's feeding your usage of pornography. I think there's a negative and a positive way of looking at that underlying thing. The quote unquote negative way is your way of dealing with pain or uncomfortable, unpleasant things. So another way of referring to that pattern you talked about is a ritual. We have a ritual of dealing with our pain. And again, even as Christians, we would acknowledge pain is not part of the way that this world is supposed to function. And there's supposed to be driving things we do to answer our pain or to bring healing to our pain. And that's what brings me. I love the language we use in a positive sense is really it's ultimately how you get your needs met.
Yeah.
So when we say, man, really pornography is a pseudo way of trying to meet your own needs, like core level, deep needs. You talked about loneliness. You talked about feelings of shame or rejection. Man, pornography, it's so, I wonder if the filmmakers and the designers of a lot of pornography are in tune with this. Man, they must understand it at some level. But so much of pornography is pitched with the direction of the narrative that big picture, this is a relational dynamic, right? Even though it may not seem like it, even if it's between yourself and the individual on the screen, that's still a relational dynamic. And the other factors that go into it is it's there to please you or elevate you and to basically meet your demands. So with needs specifically, what we want to say is don't run away from getting your needs met. What we want to say instead is look at your patterns so that you can say, actually, I can see now I'm trying to get this need met.
Yeah.
And there is I don't know what kind of description you put on this, but there's a legitimate way. There's a beautiful way of getting that need met that's so much more satiating and lasting and edifying that will sustain you and naturally break that cycle of like, you know what? I don't want to go to pornography anymore. I'm also skipping over a huge timeline that usually it takes for a guy to get to this point.
Yeah.
But when our needs are legitimately getting met in really edifying ways, we stop going to the pseudo way of getting it met. And that's how, again, behaviors change too. So again, recap of that whole thing. We want to look at routines. We want to look at your ritual, your patterns to identify what are the underlying needs, pain points, really, that really need to be met in your life.
Yeah. I wrote down a couple notes about this here too. 3 things. Pattern recognition will reduce fear. Oftentimes when we think about trying to quit pornography, there's fear involved because it's like, well, what will people think about me if they find out that I've struggled with this? What will my spouse think? What will my friends think? What will my church, my pastor think? And that fear will keep us stuck and we won't take action. But it does lower shame. And I think that's what we're up against with the fear. It's avoidance of the embarrassment of having a problem. Because oftentimes we like to present this image to the world like we're put together and we're cleaned up and we got our ducks in a row. And if we say that we have a problem, and not just a problem, like pornography feels like a big problem, because it makes you feel like a total degenerate or pervert or all the other things that we've labeled and described to that over the years. Shame will keep us locked down and isolated from that.
Yeah.
So recognizing that it's a pattern can help reduce some of that shame. And again, like I said a second ago, it restores your choice. It brings your choice back into the equation. And when you believe that you have a choice, it gives you the opportunity to do something different. When you feel stuck, you don't feel like you have a choice. I'm just constantly on autopilot. I'm reacting. Because the reality is, if porn were random, you would be stuck. It would be totally unpredictable, and it would be chaotic, and you wouldn't know what to do. In fact, that might be sort of like a trauma response, right? That's where trauma, it just sort of happens. It's like, this is unpredictable. I don't know what to do with it. Yeah. So the fact that it is a pattern, if you recognize that, that's actually really good news. That means that you can change and you can do something about it.
That's right.
Real quick before we go on, if this is clicking, if this is making sense, and you're like, man, I want to see this as a pattern, I want to recognize my patterns and do something, take 2 seconds and go to the link in the episode notes and book a one-on-one discovery call with Nick or I. Again, it's not a sales thing. I don't care about getting money from you. Like, that's not the point. The point is to help you. So if that's you and you want to just have a brief conversation about looking at what those patterns are, how you can get unstuck before and move forward in this recovery journey, go book that call. Otherwise, I also wrote down 3 things that every man must learn to master in pattern recognition. Number 1, we just talked about pattern recognition, learning to notice when those urges show up, what you're feeling, and what you're actually needing, which you so beautifully pointed out. Because the awareness does lower shame, it increases your recognition of choice. And then, this is the fun part, pattern utilization. Tell me about that.
So this is when you're using your, I can't help but use our cliche phrases.
Do it.
When your falling is not about failure, but it actually becomes about feedback. So what you're using is the stumbling points, the points that you maybe are tempted to look at with a lot of shame, toxic shame, and to say, actually, that's where the most informative data comes from. So what we're looking at is saying, let's take a step back from it. Let's just look at it as a neutral thing. I've heard some coaches or ministries and organizations say, look at it almost like a crime scene. Just say, I'm just looking at the information. When did this show up? What did I do as a response? What was the result? But when you gather some of those things, again, especially over time, so you have, let's say, a month worth, 6 months worth of information where you can say, oh man, I see this same thing. It happens usually at this time. I usually feel this around that time. I usually respond this way. I usually use this device. This is the type of information we really, really need. And then here's the really empowering thing is when you see the pattern, right? When you can lay it out and start to solve the crime, so to speak. Then what you can do is start to build in appropriate personal interventions for yourself to say, okay, I noticed that pain, so to speak, or the need that surfaces before this whole thing unravels is this. And so here's what I'm going to do. We call it an intervention, but really it's actually, again, I'm strong for it. There's a really positive action taken to say, I'm going to care for myself.
Yeah.
I know in addiction circles, intervention can mean this whole huge sit-down group conversation. It's like, you suck and you need to change. That's not what the intervention is here. An intervention is an intentional action you're taking to say, I'm recognizing what's going on and I'm going to respond to it in the way I should respond.
Yeah.
And then the third one is what we would say is pattern creation. So what are we referring to there?
Yeah, so this is the part where you regain your agency. So once you've recognized what your patterns are, and then you can take steps to intervene in those patterns, disrupt that. Now you at this point, you probably understand and you perceive a level of, I can change this. I can do something about this. So when we talk about pattern creation, it's, well, if when I'm feeling a thing and I'm recognizing a need that I have, rather than going to porn, what do I actually need? What do I actually want? And I take steps to do that instead. So when you're feeling lonely, instead of going to pornography, maybe you take a couple minutes and you do a breathing exercise, or you walk outside and get some fresh air, or you call a friend, or you drive to go get coffee with somebody. You connect with somebody relationally. And I'm rolling off a list of things that we have that we teach clients when we work with them one-on-one. But what you do is you establish new patterns, new ways of dealing with those needs, new ways of getting those needs met that aren't pornography.
Yeah.
And again, just like the behavior that got you in here, it's the same thing that's going to get you out. We keep producing replicatable.
One of those.
Yeah. Behaviors, new patterns that we can lock into and keep doing, maybe not perfectly, because most people statistically don't walk away from porn cold turkey, not overnight, but consistently long-term, that will lessen your dependency, desire, need to reach for pornography in those moments, because you've built the scaffolding that we can hang new patterns on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And the specific tool I would even say that we teach in coaching is what we often call a fire drill or an escape plan. I've heard whatever you want to call it. I like the idea of a fire drill because it's like when you start sensing danger, when you start sensing that internal battle, then it needs to be acted on right away. And I even think about what they teach kids right away, both at school, but also at home. Like, let's go at home for a second. They encourage families to have a quote unquote fire drill where you know exactly where to meet. So you're moving to a location, and that location isn't random. It's saying let's all decide here because that's where we can all see each other and meet up. There's also a specific protocol for like if my room is trapped or if I'm coming out of a window, like I had a device or a tool or a mechanism to safely approach some of those things. And just like those kind of mindsets are personally designed to accomplish certain things, we want to say the same thing here. So when you're taking an action step, we don't want to just say, I'm just going to do a breathing exercise just for the sake of it. Like what we work with guys in coaching is to say, what do you need in this moment? Yeah. And usually it involves a physical, a cognitive, emotional, and a spiritual aspect to it. But none of those things are random. We want to work to say, what specific thing do you need to do or sense in that moment? And let's run for it. Let's go for it. There are really some key decisions that guys need to make, even in January, that will really produce change. And I love this. I know you've ramped off of other voices with this, but you said
Tony Robbins.
There you go. Where your focus goes, your energy flows.
Yeah.
Meaning what you spend your time and energy to, especially through repetition, that's where naturally your life's going to follow. So let's talk about maybe 3 decisions or maybe 3 questions that a guy could focus on this month in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
To really start getting these wheels going here in terms of finding patterns, interrupting them, and also maybe getting some help in the process.
Yes. And the first one, I know this might sound redundant, but it's key, and I want to make sure we don't miss this. It's what are you going to focus on? Because like you said, where focus goes, energy flows. Obsessing over porn will strengthen that loop. So if your focus is, I want to quit, I want to quit, I want to quit, you probably won't, because you're focusing on not the real problem, right? If we focus on the real problem, right, getting my needs met in healthy, appropriate ways, focusing on awareness, that will weaken that desire for pornography, because we're actually trying to focus on the real issue. So it could be what emotions are, what feelings are more commonly present in my day-to-day life. How do I attend to those, and not necessarily the pornography? Does that make sense?
So, and what we're also talking about too is giving yourself permission to step out of toxic shame.
Yes.
And so when we say that a guy's like, well, I need to do better, that's usually rooted in the thinking of, I can't stand myself. I'm constant failure. So therefore I need to change. And that's what's driving this.
And I need to change immediately.
Exactly. So what we're telling guy too, when we say, what are you going to focus on? Maybe instead of saying, hey, the primary goal for this year is I got to change. What if it was instead to say, my primary goal is actually to learn a little bit more about myself?
Bingo.
So, and again, how can you not do that apart from observation, just some non-judgmental, curious observation of yourself to say, man, if my goal is I want to learn more about me, and I'm going to suspend judgment, suspend curiosity for a bit until I can do that more, then that's going to cause me to look at myself a little different week by week. By the way, yes, that's really tough. Because toxic shame is this mindset that we've ingrained over a long period of time through neurochemistry and lots of strong emotion. So we know it's hard. But again, what we say is give yourself some permission. And also, I would say God is giving you that permission as well. Yeah, by grace, through Christ.
100%. Number 2, what does it mean? Focus without meaning will lead to frustration. So you have to give yourself the reason, what's your why. Big picture, like, why does this matter specifically to you that you want to quit pornography? Is it because, it is because it's destructive to your relationships. We don't have to wonder about that. But like maybe which relationships is this destructive toward? Is this a marriage? Is this a job? Like I've known and met people, clients even, who've used pornography in places where it was not allowed and they've lost jobs because of it.
Yeah.
Which also then impacted their marriages and impacted their families, big picture. So it's like, what's the why? How do you ascribe, how do you give meaning to your reason for wanting to remove this thing from your life?
Yeah, to jump right to practical, two things that we often work with guys is to write a letter to yourself. Yeah, briefly explains your why. And we even tell guys, or I tell guys, initially, you should be reading that letter to yourself every day. Again, remembering, why am I doing this? Why is this so important to me? What's on the line? But also in your letter to yourself, you should reinforce your own worth, defined by your worth in Christ, but also in the fact that God cherishes you. And so this is worth it, and your life is not over. You've not burned so many bridges that there's no going back, or going forward, I should say. So yeah, that why could be seen in a letter to yourself. I've also heard guys, and I actually did a variation of this in my own recovery journey, where they put together a small box of physical objects, of the things that symbolize their why. So for me, in my box at the time was my wedding ring, because I was going through a divorce. It also was a picture of myself and my two daughters. And also a picture of myself and my church family, to say, like, so interesting. I never reflected on that until this moment about ministry. Different episode, we'll have to reflect on that. But the thought of serving the Lord again, and honoring him in that space was like, yeah, I don't want that to be just this distant, shameful memory.
Yeah.
So I would regularly revisit that. And actually what I did is I left that box right next to my devices intentionally, because it's like, hey, if that gets triggered in my device usage, that box is right there, and I can look at my girls, I can look at my wedding ring, look at those pictures and those letters.
Yeah.
And re-engage with my why.
Yeah.
Last thing is the question, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do about it?
This is really where the meat and potatoes happen.
Insight without action stalls.
That's right.
And another way to put it, and I've dreamt this before, direction, not intention, determines your destination. So you have to take action, and you have to move toward that thing intentionally and specifically, not just thinking about it. If you say the words, I intend to quit porn this year, and then never take any steps or actions to do it, guess what? We'll be right back here in 2027 having the same conversation, because you won't quit. You won't do anything about it.
Yeah, and we need to acknowledge too that we're used to letting our behavior be driven by what feels good.
Yeah.
So when we said to build a pattern or build a repetition is the goal, that means making a commitment to yourself to say, I'm going to keep at this, even when I really don't want to, even when I, just everything in me's like, oh, this sucks. This is not working. I'm just going to give up. What we would say too, and to reinforce this principle, is to, like, say, even keep a tally mark. Celebrate the fact that, hey, I've done this 5 days in a row. I did this now a couple weeks in a row, a month in a row, 6 months in a row. See the value in that, of consistency and building a pattern. Because again, even the scientific data says, apart from emotion, even when you repeat a behavior over and over again, it is strengthened and it becomes an asset into your life. Yeah. Also could be a detriment. But when we're being proactive about what are you going to do, and you determine an action to say, I need to do this. This is important.
Yeah.
And to say, you know what? It may feel like it's a complete waste. It may feel like I'm not accomplishing anything. But my goal is to say, I just want to do this consistently.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to tally that.
Yeah. Consistency over big dramatic actions.
That's correct.
Consistency. If you heard nothing else from this episode, hear the word consistency.
Yeah.
Just keep working it. Track your urges, name your feelings, interrupt those patterns early. And then, again, this is where a lot of guys stall out. They hear all this sounds great, I want to start working my patterns, but then they do not take action. And I've said this 100 times, I know Nick has. If you close the podcast app, or you shut down YouTube, or whatever you're watching or listening to this on, and you take no action, what will change? Absolutely nothing. And that's pointless. Thanks for wasting your time. Actually, in fact, if you just want to listen to this, it helps us out. Knock yourself out.
Sure.
But you're not helping you. You're not helping you.
And specifically, the action steps we're encouraging you to focus on is not trying harder action steps.
Yes.
We're trying to encourage action steps that go back to that original point of saying, I want to learn about myself more. So maybe an action step for you is like you just said, every day, once a day, I'm going to track my emotional state.
Yep.
Or every day for a period of time, I'm going to log the things that are a trigger to me.
Yep.
So again, what's the goal? Is I want to learn more about myself. It's grounded in the why, which is the bigger picture of what I'm striving for. Intimacy with Christ, improved relationships, maybe a restored marriage, a more present ability to be a father, whatever it may be. And then the last thing is then, okay, what is that action step I need to work at really hard to repeat, even when I don't feel like it. Now, listen, you've heard Michael say too, some of the ways that you can make this happen in your life is by not doing it alone. And what we want you to do is click on the link on our website, rscky.com, to connect with us over the phone, not a robot, really us, that we call it a discovery call, because the point is it's not a counseling session. It's not this thing where we're going to put you on the clock and charge you. It's actually just our way of saying, hey, let's just talk and see what's going to be next for you. And then we can try to help. So yeah, take advantage of that.
This year, don't promise to quit porn. Do something different. Promise to understand yourself. Pay attention. What are your patterns? Work with those patterns instead of fighting yourself.
Yeah, what we'd say always too is this takes humility. It takes patience, but it really works. And most of all, as we say over and over, don't do this alone. We want you to reach out. Again, could be to us through our website. It also could be someone that you trust that maybe knows a little bit about your story, and then you want to pull a little bit closer in this journey, in this process.
Well, we'll see you on the next one, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. If you found this helpful, do us a huge favor and subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Or, better yet, send this to someone who needs encouragement.
For more tools, resources, and information about our coaching, check out rscky.com. Keep showing up.
Yeah, we'll catch you next time.